It was a scorching summer day in the bustling city, the kind that made the skin beg for relief and the mind long for the soothing embrace of cool water. For 8-year-old Jaden, this was the perfect opportunity to head to the neighborhood pool, where he could splash and play with his friends, free from the oppressive heat. Jaden, a bright-eyed and curious child, lived with his mother, Alicia, in a modest apartment just a few blocks away from the pool. Though their family didn't have much, Alicia always made sure Jaden had the chance to enjoy the simple pleasures of childhood, like swimming on a hot summer day. As Jaden bounded down the sidewalk, the promise of fun and laughter filling his steps, he could already see the shimmering expanse of the pool in the distance. His heart raced with excitement, and he quickened his pace, eager to join his friends in the refreshing water. But as Jaden neared the pool's entrance, his steps slowed and his smile faded. Standing at the gate was a stern-faced lifeguard, his arms crossed over his chest, a stern expression etched across his features. Jaden approached cautiously, unsure of what to make of the man's imposing presence. "Excuse me, sir," he said, his voice small and uncertain. "Can I go swimming?" The lifeguard's response was curt and unwelcoming. "Sorry, kid," he said, his tone leaving no room for argument. "This pool is for members only. No exceptions." Jaden's brow furrowed in confusion, his young mind struggling to comprehend the man's words. He had been to this pool many times before, playing and laughing with his friends without incident. Why was he being turned away now? Alicia, who had been trailing behind her son, quickened her pace as she noticed the interaction unfolding. She approached the lifeguard, her own confusion and concern evident in her expression. "Excuse me, what's going on?" she asked, her voice calm but firm. "My son has been coming to this pool all summer. Why is he being denied entry now?" The lifeguard's gaze shifted to Alicia, his expression hardening. "This pool is for members only," he repeated, his words laced with a hint of disdain. "I don't make the rules, ma'am. I just enforce them." Alicia's heart sank as she began to understand the implication of the lifeguard's words. She knew all too well the reality of discrimination, the subtle and not-so-subtle ways in which people of color were often excluded from spaces and opportunities that were readily available to their white counterparts. Swallowing the lump that had formed in her throat, Alicia placed a gentle hand on Jaden's shoulder, guiding him away from the pool's entrance. Her son's eyes were wide with confusion, his small face etched with disappointment. "But Mama, I want to swim," Jaden said, his voice tinged with the plaintive whine of a child denied a cherished treat. Alicia's heart ached as she looked down at her son, his desire to play and have fun thwarted by the arbitrary rules of a system that seemed to value his skin color more than his right to enjoy the simple pleasures of childhood. "I know, baby," she said, her voice soothing and reassuring. "We'll find another way to cool off, I promise." As mother and son walked away, Alicia's mind raced with thoughts of how to address this injustice. She had encountered this kind of discrimination before, and she knew that confronting the lifeguard directly would likely only escalate the situation, potentially putting her son at risk. But Alicia was determined to find a way to right this wrong, not just for Jaden, but for all the other children who might face similar barriers in the future. She would not let this incident go unchallenged, for to do so would be to accept the unacceptable. As they made their way back home, Jaden's disappointment slowly gave way to a sense of confusion and hurt. He couldn't understand why he had been turned away when all he wanted to do was swim and play like the other kids. Alicia held her son's hand tightly, her own heart heavy with the knowledge that this was not the first time, nor would it be the last, that her child would face such blatant discrimination. But she vowed to herself that she would do everything in her power to ensure that Jaden's experience was not repeated, that he would grow up in a world that recognized his inherent worth and celebrated his right to be treated with dignity and respect. As Alicia and Jaden made their way back home, a growing sense of frustration and indignation began to take root within Alicia. She couldn't shake the feeling of injustice that had washed over her when the lifeguard had so callously denied her son entry to the pool. Jaden, sensing his mother's distress, reached up and grasped her hand tightly. "Mama, why couldn't I go swimming?" he asked, his voice small and uncertain. Alicia glanced down at her son, her heart aching at the sight of his disappointed expression. "Oh, baby," she sighed, "it's not your fault. The man at the pool, he just didn't want to let you in, even though you should be able to go." Jaden furrowed his brow, his young mind struggling to comprehend the reason behind the lifeguard's actions. But why, Mama? I go there all the time with my friends. What did I do wrong? Alicia hesitated, unsure of how to explain the complex dynamics of racism and discrimination to her 8-year-old son. She knew that the truth was complicated, rooted in a long history of systemic oppression and societal biases that had little to do with Jaden's own actions or character. You didn't do anything wrong, honey, she said, squeezing his hand reassuringly. Sometimes, people treat others unfairly, even if they haven't done anything wrong. It's not fair, and it's not your fault. Jaden nodded slowly, his expression still tinged with confusion and hurt. Alicia could see the wheels turning in his young mind as he tried to make sense of the situation. As they approached their apartment building, Alicia's gaze fell upon a familiar face, their neighbor, Anna, a kind-hearted woman who had always been a friendly and supportive presence in their lives. Alicia, Jaden? Anna called out, a warm smile spreading across her face. I was just about to head to the pool. Why aren't you two joining me? Alicia hesitated, unsure of how to respond. She didn't want to burden Anna with the weight of their recent experience, but the need to find a solution, or at least a sympathetic ear, was overwhelming. Oh, Anna, Alicia said, her voice heavy with emotion, the strangest thing happened at the pool today. The lifeguard, he wouldn't let Jaden in. He said it was for members only, and that there were no exceptions. Anna's expression shifted from one of friendly curiosity to one of genuine concern. That's awful, she exclaimed, her brow furrowed in a frown. Jaden has been going to that pool all summer. Why would they turn him away now? Alicia sighed heavily, her gaze dropping to the ground. I think it's because of the color of his skin, she admitted, the words heavy on her tongue. Anna's eyes widened in shock, and she immediately reached out to place a comforting hand on Alicia's arm. Oh, my dear, that's simply unacceptable, she said, her voice laced with indignation. Jaden has just as much right to enjoy that pool as any other child. This is discrimination, plain and simple. Jaden, who had been standing quietly beside his mother, looked up at Anna with a glimmer of hope in his eyes. So, does that mean I can't swim anymore? He asked, his voice small and uncertain. Anna knelt down, meeting Jaden's gaze with a warm smile. Of course not, sweetie, she said, her voice gentle and reassuring. We're going to do something about this, I promise. No child should be denied the chance to have fun and cool off on a hot day just because of the color of their skin. Alicia felt a surge of gratitude wash over her as she watched Anna's interaction with her son. She had always known that Anna was a kind and compassionate woman, but in this moment, her unwavering support and determination to right this wrong felt like a lifeline in the face of overwhelming adversity. Thank you, Anna, Alicia said, her voice thick with emotion. I don't know what we'd do without you. Anna simply smiled and squeezed Alicia's hand reassuringly. That's what friends are for, she said, her expression resolute. Now, let's figure out how we can fix this injustice, once and for all. As the three of them stepped into the apartment building, Alicia felt a renewed sense of hope and determination. With Anna by their side, she knew that they had a fighting chance of not only addressing Jaden's immediate situation, but of paving the way for a more equitable and just future for all children, regardless of the color of their skin. Once they were safely inside the apartment, Alicia gently guided Jaden to the sofa, where he plopped down, his small frame radiating a mix of disappointment and confusion. Mama, I still don't understand, Jaden said, his brow furrowed in a worried frown. Why couldn't I go swimming with my friends today? Alicia sighed deeply, her heart aching for her son's distress. She took a seat next to him, wrapping a comforting arm around his shoulders. Oh, baby, I wish I had a better answer for you, she said, her voice soft and soothing. The truth is, that man at the pool, he treated you unfairly because of the color of your skin. It's not right, and it's not your fault. Jaden's eyes widened, and he looked up at his mother with a mixture of disbelief and hurt. But why would he do that, Mama? He asked, his voice wavering. I didn't do anything wrong. Alicia drew Jaden closer, holding him tight as she tried to find the right words to explain the complex realities of racism and discrimination. I know, sweetheart, she said, her own eyes filling with tears. Sometimes, people treat others badly, even if they haven't done anything wrong. It's a sad and unfair thing, but it's the reality that many people of color, like us, have to face. Jaden's small hands gripped the fabric of Alicia's shirt, and she could feel his body tremble with emotion. But that's not fair, he cried, his voice laced with a righteous indignation that only a child could possess. Alicia nodded, her own heart swelling with pride and heartache. You're absolutely right, Jaden, she said. It's not fair at all, and that's why we have to work to change it. Just then, a gentle knock came at the door, and Alicia rose to answer it, Jaden trailing close behind. When she opened the door, she was greeted by the warm, sympathetic gaze of their neighbor Anna. Alicia, Jaden, Anna said, her voice tinged with concern. I just wanted to check on you both. I know what happened at the pool must have been incredibly upsetting. Alicia ushered Anna inside, grateful for her presence and the comfort it brought. It was, she admitted, and I'm still trying to find the right words to explain it all to Jaden. Anna's gaze shifted to the young boy, who stood quietly by his mother's side, his eyes downcast. She knelt down, placing a gentle hand on Jaden's shoulder. Jaden, I'm so sorry that you were treated that way, she said, her voice soft and soothing. You did nothing wrong, and you have every right to enjoy that pool, just like any other child. Jaden looked up, his eyes shining with a glimmer of hope. So, does that mean I can go back and swim? He asked, his voice laced with cautious optimism. Anna shook her head, her expression turning resolute. Not yet, Jaden, she said, but I promise you, we're going to do something about this. Your mother and I, we're going to make sure that the people who work at that pool understand that turning you away was wrong, and that you deserve to be there, just as much as anyone else. Alicia felt a surge of gratitude and relief wash over her as she listened to Anna's words. She had always known that her neighbor was a kind and compassionate soul, but in this moment, her unwavering support and determination to right this wrong felt like a lifeline in the face of overwhelming adversity. Anna, I don't know how to thank you, Alicia said, her voice thick with emotion. You've always been such a wonderful friend, and I'm so grateful that you're here to help us through this. Anna smiled warmly, her hand still resting on Jaden's shoulder. That's what friends are for, Alicia, she said, her gaze shifting between mother and son, and I promise you, we're going to make sure that Jaden and all the other children in this neighborhood have the chance to enjoy that pool, no matter the color of their skin. Jaden looked up at Anna, his eyes shining with a newfound sense of hope and determination. He may have been just a child, but in that moment he knew that he had allies in his fight for justice and equality, allies who would stand by his side and ensure that the unfair treatment he had faced would never be repeated. As the three of them sat together, planning their next steps, Alicia couldn't help but feel a glimmer of hope amidst the darkness. With Anna's support and the unwavering love of a mother, she knew that they had the power to create lasting change, not just for Jaden, but for all the children who deserved the chance to simply be kids, without the burden of discrimination and prejudice. As the afternoon sun continued to beat down, Alicia, Jaden, and Anna sat together in the small apartment, their minds buzzing with plans and strategies to address the injustice that had unfolded at the neighborhood pool. All right, let's think this through, Anna said, her brow furrowed in concentration. We need to figure out the best way to make sure Jaden and all the other children in this community can enjoy that pool without facing discrimination. Alicia nodded, her expression resolute. I agree, but we have to be careful, she said, her voice tinged with concern. I don't want to put Jaden or anyone else in harm's way. That lifeguard seemed pretty determined to keep us out. Jaden, who had been listening intently, spoke up, his voice small but full of determination. I just want to go swimming, Mama, he said. Why can't I play with my friends like everyone else? Alicia reached out and gently squeezed Jaden's hand, her heart aching at the sight of her son's disappointment. I know, baby, she said, and we're going to make sure you can. Anna and I, we're going to figure this out, I promise. Anna nodded, her expression thoughtful. Jaden, I know this has been really hard, and it's not fair at all, she said, her voice calm and reassuring. But your mama and I, we're going to work together to find a way to make things right. We're not going to let that lifeguard keep you from enjoying the pool. Jaden's face brightened ever so slightly, and he looked up at Anna with a glimmer of hope in his eyes. Alicia felt a surge of gratitude towards her neighbor, knowing that she could always count on Anna's unwavering support and compassion. So, what's the plan? Alicia asked, her gaze shifting between Anna and Jaden. Anna leaned back in her chair, her expression thoughtful. Well, I think the first step is to try and talk to the pool management, she said. We need to make them understand that what that lifeguard did was wrong, and that they have a responsibility to ensure that all children in this community have equal access to the pool. Alicia nodded, her mind already racing with potential arguments and strategies. That's a good idea, she said, but we need to be prepared for pushback. They may try to justify the lifeguard's actions or claim that the pool is for members only as an excuse to exclude us. Anna's eyes narrowed, a spark of determination burning within them. Then we'll have to be ready to challenge them on that, she said. We'll come armed with information about the laws and regulations around public accommodations and discrimination. If they try to turn us away, we'll make it clear that we're prepared to take this further. Jaden, who had been listening intently, spoke up again, his voice laced with a newfound sense of hope. Does that mean I can go swimming again, Mama? He asked, his eyes shining with excitement. Alicia smiled warmly, pulling her son into a tight embrace. Yes, baby, she said. That's exactly what it means. Anna and I, we're going to make sure that you and all your friends can enjoy that pool, no matter what. Jaden's face lit up with a joyous grin, and he hugged his mother back enthusiastically. Alicia felt her own heart swell with a mix of pride and determination. She knew that the road ahead would not be an easy one, but with Anna by her side and the unwavering love of a mother, she was more than ready to take on the challenge. As the three of them began to strategize and plan their next steps, Alicia couldn't help but feel a sense of hope and optimism. This was not just about Jaden's right to enjoy the pool. It was about standing up for the rights and dignity of all children, regardless of the color of their skin. And with the support of a caring community, she knew that they had a real chance of making a lasting difference. As the afternoon wore on, Alicia, Jaden, and Anna continued to brainstorm and plan their next steps in addressing the injustice that had occurred at the neighborhood pool. The weight of the situation hung heavy in the air, but the trio remained steadfast in their determination to see this through. Okay, let's recap, Anna said, her brow furrowed in concentration. We know that the pool's management is likely going to try and defend the lifeguard's actions, so we need to be prepared to counter any arguments they might make. Alicia nodded, her expression resolute. That's right, she said, and we need to make it crystal clear that what happened was not only wrong, but also illegal. This is a case of blatant discrimination, and we can't back down. Jaden, who had been listening intently, spoke up, his voice laced with a touch of uncertainty. But, Mama, what if they still won't let me swim? He asked, his small hands fidgeting in his lap. Alicia reached out and grasped Jaden's hands, giving them a reassuring squeeze. Don't worry, baby, she said, her voice soft and soothing. Anna and I, we're not going to let that happen. We're going to make sure that you, and all the other children in this neighborhood, have the chance to enjoy that pool, just like everyone else. Anna leaned forward, her gaze fixed on Jaden. That's right, Jaden, she said, her voice gentle but firm. We're going to fight for your right to be there, and we're not going to stop until we've made things right. Jaden's eyes widened, and a small but hopeful smile tugged at the corners of his lips. Alicia felt a surge of pride and determination wash over her, knowing that she and Anna were united in their mission to ensure that her son's dignity and rights were respected. As the trio continued to discuss their plan of action, a knock came at the apartment door, startling them all. Alicia rose from her seat, her heart racing with a mix of anticipation and trepidation. When she opened the door, she was greeted by the sight of several of their neighbors, all of whom had witnessed the incident at the pool earlier that day. Among them was a tall, broad-shouldered man named Marcus, a longtime member of the community who was known for his unwavering commitment to social justice. Alicia, Jaden, Marcus said, his voice rich and resonant. We heard about what happened at the pool, and we want to help. Alicia's eyes widened, and she felt a wave of relief wash over her. Marcus, everyone, thank you so much for coming, she said, her voice thick with emotion. We could really use your support right now. As the group of neighbors filed into the apartment, Jaden's face lit up with a renewed sense of hope and excitement. He had always known that the people in his community were kind and caring, but in this moment he felt a deep sense of belonging and camaraderie that he had never experienced before. Anna stood up to greet the newcomers, her expression filled with gratitude. "Thank you all for coming," she said, her voice steady and confident. "We're going to need all the help we can get to make sure that Jaden and all the other children in this community can enjoy that pool without facing discrimination." The group nodded in agreement, their faces set with a determined expression. One by one, they shared their own stories of encountering racism and injustice, their voices laced with a shared sense of outrage and a determination to see this wrong righted. As Alicia listened to their stories, she felt a sense of solidarity and strength that she had never known before. These were her neighbors, her friends, and they were all united in their commitment to creating a more just and equitable world for their children. With the support of this growing community, Alicia knew that they had a real chance of making a lasting impact. They would not back down, and they would not rest until Jaden and all the other children in the neighborhood had the freedom to enjoy the simple pleasures of childhood without the burden of discrimination and prejudice. As the group began to strategize and plan their next steps, Jaden sat back and observed, his eyes shining with a newfound sense of purpose and belonging. He may have been just a child, but in that moment, he knew that he was part of something much bigger, a movement for justice and equality that would echo through the generations to come. As the group of neighbors gathered in Alicia's apartment, the air was thick with a sense of purpose and determination. They knew that the challenge ahead of them was significant, but they were united in their commitment to ensuring that Jaden and all the other children in the community would have the freedom to enjoy the neighborhood pool without fear of discrimination. Marcus, the tall and imposing man who had rallied the neighbors, stood at the center of the group, his deep voice commanding the attention of all who were present. "All right, everyone," he said, his gaze sweeping across the room. "We know what happened at that pool today was wrong, and we're not going to let it slide. But we need to have a plan of action, and we need to make sure we're doing this the right way." Alicia nodded, her expression resolute. "That's exactly right, Marcus," she said. "We can't just march down there and start a confrontation. We need to be strategic and make sure we're working within the law to demand change." Anna, who had been listening intently, spoke up, her voice filled with a sense of determination. "Well, then, let's start by gathering as much information as we can," she said. "We need to research the relevant laws and regulations around public accommodations and discrimination. That way, we can go to the pool management armed with the facts and make it clear that what they're doing is unacceptable." The group murmured in agreement, and Alicia couldn't help but feel a surge of gratitude and pride. She had always known that her neighbors were a caring and supportive bunch, but in this moment, their willingness to come together and fight for her son's rights filled her heart with a renewed sense of hope. As the discussion continued, Jaden sat quietly in the corner, his eyes darting between the adults as they spoke. He couldn't help but feel a mix of emotions, excitement at the prospect of being able to return to the pool, but also a lingering sense of uncertainty and fear. Sensing his son's unease, Alicia reached out and placed a comforting hand on his shoulder. "It's going to be okay, Jaden," she whispered, her voice soothing and reassuring. "These people, they're all here to help us, and they're not going to let anyone keep you from enjoying that pool." Jaden nodded, his small face brightening ever so slightly. He knew that his mother was right. These were his neighbors, his friends, and they were all united in their desire to see justice served. With their support, he felt a newfound sense of courage and determination. As the meeting drew to a close, Marcus stood up, his imposing figure commanding the attention of all who were present. "All right, folks," he said, "here's what we're going to do. First, we're going to gather as much information as we can about the laws and regulations surrounding public accommodations and discrimination. Then, we're going to put together a delegation to go and meet with the pool management, and we're going to make it crystal clear that their actions were unacceptable and that they need to change their policies." The group erupted in a chorus of agreement, their voices filled with a sense of unity and purpose. Alicia couldn't help but feel a surge of pride and relief wash over her. She had always known that her community was strong and supportive, but in this moment, she felt a deeper connection to her neighbors than ever before. They were all in this together, united in their fight for justice and equality. As the group began to disperse, Jaden walked over to Anna, his small hand reaching out to grasp hers. "Thank you, Miss Anna," he said, his voice filled with a mix of gratitude and respect. "I'm glad you and the others are going to help me." Anna smiled warmly, squeezing Jaden's hand gently. "Of course, Jaden," she said, her voice filled with a mother's tenderness. We're all in this together, and we're not going to stop until you and all the other children in this neighborhood can enjoy that pool without any problems." Jaden nodded, his eyes shining with a newfound sense of hope and belonging. He may have been just a child, but in that moment, he knew that he was part of something much bigger, a movement for justice and equality that would echo through the generations to come. In the days that followed the incident at the neighborhood pool, the group of concerned neighbors sprang into action, determined to right the wrong that had been done to young Jaden. Led by the steadfast Marcus, they gathered a wealth of information, poring over local laws and regulations surrounding public accommodations and discrimination. They wanted to make sure they were armed with the facts and ready to present a solid, airtight case to the pool management. Alicia, Jaden's mother, played a crucial role in this process, sharing her own experiences and insights. She knew all too well the realities of navigating a world that often discriminated against people of color, and she was determined to ensure that her son would not have to face such barriers. As the team of neighbors assembled their case, they'd also reached out to local civil rights organizations and advocacy groups, seeking guidance and support. They wanted to make sure that their approach was not only legally sound, but also strategically effective in bringing about the change they sought. One evening, as the group gathered in Alicia's apartment to finalize their plan of action, Jaden sat quietly in the corner, his small face etched with a mix of anticipation and trepidation. He knew that the adults were working hard to help him, but he couldn't help but wonder if their efforts would be enough to overcome the stubborn resistance they were likely to face. Sensing her son's unease, Alicia approached him, her expression warm and reassuring. "Jaden, honey, I know you're worried, but I want you to know that we're not going to give up," she said, her voice low and soothing. "These people, they're your neighbors, and they're going to fight for you, no matter what." Jaden looked up at his mother, his eyes shining with a glimmer of hope. "Do you really think they can make the pool let me swim again, Mama?" he asked, his voice small and uncertain. Alicia nodded, a gentle smile tugging at the corners of her lips. "I do, baby," she said, "and I'm going to be right there with you, every step of the way. We're going to make sure that you and all your friends can enjoy that pool without any problems." Jaden's face lit up with a smile, and he reached out to hug his mother tightly. In that moment, Alicia felt a surge of love and determination, knowing that she would stop at nothing to ensure her son's rights were protected and his dignity respected. As the group finalized their plan, they decided that a delegation of concerned neighbors would pay a visit to the pool management the following day, armed with their research and a steadfast commitment to change. "We need to make it clear that what happened to Jaden was unacceptable," Marcus said, his voice firm and unwavering. "We're not going to let them off the hook, and we're not going to back down until they agree to implement proper policies and training to prevent this kind of discrimination from happening again." The rest of the group nodded in agreement, their expressions resolute. They knew that the fight ahead would not be an easy one. They were united in their belief that justice and equality were worth the struggle. As the meeting drew to a close, Alicia felt a newfound sense of hope and purpose. She knew that with the support of her community, she had the power to create lasting change, not just for Jaden, but for all the children in their neighborhood who deserved the chance to simply be kids, without the burden of discrimination and prejudice. As the group dispersed, Jaden approached Anna, his small hand reaching out to grasp hers. "Miss Anna, do you think I'll be able to swim again soon?" he asked, his voice filled with a mix of hope and trepidation. Anna smiled warmly, giving Jaden's hand a gentle squeeze. "I promise you, Jaden, you're going to be swimming in that pool before you know it," she said, her voice filled with a mother's tenderness. "We're all in this together, and we're not going to stop until we've made things right." Jaden's face lit up with a bright smile, and he nodded, his eyes shining with a newfound sense of confidence and belonging. He may have been just a child, but in that moment, he knew that he was part of something much bigger, a movement for justice and equality that would echo through the generations to come. The following day, a determined group of neighbors, led by the steadfast Marcus, gathered outside the gates of the neighborhood pool, their faces set with a steely resolve. Alicia, Jaden's mother, stood among them, her heart racing with a mix of anxiety and hope. As they approached the pool entrance, the group was met by the same lifeguard who had turned Jaden away just a few days prior. The man's expression hardened as he caught sight of the small crowd, his arms crossing defensively over his chest. "Look, I told you before," he said, his voice gruff and unyielding. "This pool is for members only. No exceptions. Marcus stepped forward, his imposing figure casting a shadow over the lifeguard. That's exactly the problem we're here to address, he said, his deep voice laced with a hint of barely contained anger. What you did to that young boy was wrong, and it's a clear case of discrimination. The lifeguard shifted uncomfortably, his gaze darting between the members of the group. I'm just following the rules, he said, his tone defensive. If you've got a problem with it, take it up with the management. Alicia, sensing the lifeguard's reluctance to engage, spoke up, her voice calm and measured. That's exactly what we're here to do, she said. We've done our research, and we know that denying a child access to a public pool based on the color of their skin is a violation of the law. The lifeguard's eyes narrowed, and he opened his mouth to argue, but Marcus raised a hand, silencing him. Look, we're not here to fight, Marcus said, his tone firm but not unkind. We're here to find a solution, one that ensures that all the children in this community, regardless of their race, have equal access to this pool. The lifeguard hesitated, his gaze shifting from one member of the group to the next. Alicia could see the wheels turning in his mind as he weighed the options before him. All right, fine, he said, his voice laced with a hint of resignation. I'll let you talk to the management, but I'm telling you, they're not going to be happy about this. With that, the lifeguard stepped aside, allowing the group to pass through the gates and make their way towards the pool office. As they walked, Alicia felt a surge of hope and determination wash over her. She knew that the battle was far from over, but she also knew that with the support of her community, they had a real chance of making a lasting difference. When they reached the office, the group was greeted by a well-dressed, middle-aged man who introduced himself as the pool's manager. He eyed the group warily, his expression guarded. What's this all about? He asked, his voice tinged with a hint of impatience. Marcus stepped forward, his broad shoulders and commanding presence commanding the attention of the room. We're here to discuss the incident that happened the other day, he said, his voice firm and unwavering. One of the children in our community, Jaden, was denied entry to this pool solely based on the color of his skin. The manager's eyes widened, and he opened his mouth to respond, but Marcus held up a hand, cutting him off. We've done our research, and we know that what your lifeguard did was a clear violation of the law, Marcus continued. We're here to demand that you take immediate action to address this issue and ensure that it never happens again. The manager's expression shifted, his brow furrowing as he listened to Marcus's words. Alicia could see the gears turning in his mind, and she held her breath, hoping that he would understand the gravity of the situation. After a moment of tense silence, the manager sighed deeply and nodded. You're right, he said, his voice laced with a hint of resignation. What happened to that boy was wrong, and it's not something we can ignore. We'll need to review our policies and provide additional training to our staff to ensure that this kind of discrimination doesn't occur again. Alicia felt a wave of relief wash over her, and she couldn't help but smile at the group of neighbors who had rallied to support her and her son. They had done it. They had stood up to injustice and won, paving the way for a more just and equitable future for all the children in their community. As they walked away from the pool office, Jaden reached out and grasped his mother's hand, his eyes shining with a newfound sense of pride and belonging. Mama, does this mean I can go swimming again? He asked, his voice filled with excitement. Alicia nodded, pulling her son in for a warm embrace. Yes, Jaden, she said, her voice thick with emotion. You and all your friends can go swimming whenever you want. We did it, baby. We made things right. Jaden's face lit up with a bright smile, and he pulled away from the hug, his small legs already carrying him towards the pool, where his friends waited eagerly. Alicia watched him go, her heart swelling with a mix of pride and relief, knowing that her son and all the children in their community would now have the freedom to enjoy the simple pleasures of childhood, without the burden of discrimination and prejudice. As Jaden raced towards the pool, his small feet pounding against the pavement, a wide grin spread across his face. The weight of the past few days had been lifted from his shoulders, and he could feel the familiar thrill of excitement as he approached the shimmering blue waters. Alicia watched from the sidelines, her heart swelling with a mix of pride and relief. After the confrontation with the pool management, she had felt a renewed sense of hope and determination, knowing that her son and all the other children in their community would now have the freedom to enjoy the simple pleasures of childhood without the burden of discrimination. As Jaden reached the pool's edge, he was greeted by a chorus of cheers and laughter from his friends, who had been eagerly awaiting his return. Without hesitation, he dove into the cool water, his small body cutting through the surface with a graceful splash. Alicia couldn't help but smile as she watched her son's joyful reunion with his peers. She knew that the fight they had waged was not just about Jaden's right to swim. It was about standing up for the dignity and equality of all children, regardless of the color of their skin. As Jaden emerged from the water, his face beaming with pure delight, Anna, the kind-hearted neighbor who had stood by their side, approached Alicia, her own expression filled with a sense of triumph and relief. "Look at him, Alicia," Anna said, her voice soft and filled with warmth. "I told you we'd make sure he could come back and enjoy that pool, just like any other child." Alicia nodded, her eyes glistening with unshed tears. "You were right, Anna," she said, her voice thick with emotion. "And I can't thank you enough for everything you've done. I don't know what we would have done without you and the rest of the community." Anna reached out and pulled Alicia into a warm embrace, her hand gently stroking the younger woman's back. "That's what friends are for, Alicia," she said, her voice filled with a mother's tenderness. "We're all in this together, and we're not going to let anyone take away our children's right to be kids." As they pulled apart, Alicia's gaze shifted back to Jaden, who was now engaged in a lively game of water tag with his friends. She could see the pure joy and carefree spirit that she had longed to see in her son's eyes, and she knew that this moment was just the beginning of a new chapter in their lives, one filled with the promise of equal opportunity and the freedom to simply be. Marcus, the staunch advocate who had spearheaded the group's efforts, approached the two women, a satisfied smile on his face. "Well, I'd say that's a job well done," he said, his deep voice rumbling with a sense of accomplishment. "That pool management sure didn't put up much of a fight once we laid out the facts for them." Alicia nodded, a grateful smile spreading across her face. "You were right, Marcus," she said. "We had to make sure we were armed with the right information and approach this the right way. And you and the rest of the community, you've all been such a blessing to us." Marcus chuckled, his expression softening as he watched the children splashing and playing in the pool. "That's what we do, Alicia," he said. "We look out for each other, and we make sure that every child in this neighborhood has the chance to grow up feeling safe, respected, and free." Alicia felt a surge of pride and gratitude wash over her. She knew that the fight for equality and justice was far from over, but in this moment, she felt a deep sense of hope and optimism. With a community like this by her side, she knew that she and Jaden could face any challenge, no matter how daunting. As the afternoon wore on, the sounds of laughter and splashing echoed through the air, a testament to the power of collective action and the triumph of the human spirit. Jaden, surrounded by his friends, was the embodiment of that triumph, his joyful presence a reminder that every child deserves the freedom to simply be a child, without the burden of discrimination and prejudice. As the afternoon wore on, the sounds of laughter and splashing echoed through the air, filling the neighborhood pool with a palpable sense of joy and belonging. Jaden, surrounded by his friends, was the center of attention, his small frame darting through the water with unbridled enthusiasm. Alicia watched from the sidelines, her heart swelling with a mix of pride and relief. After the confrontation with the pool management, she had felt a renewed sense of hope and determination, knowing that her son and all the other children in their community would now have the freedom to enjoy the simple pleasures of childhood without the burden of discrimination. Anna, the kind-hearted neighbor who had stood by their side throughout the ordeal, approached Alicia, her expression filled with a sense of triumph and satisfaction. "Look at him, Alicia," Anna said, her voice soft and filled with warmth. "I told you we'd make sure he could come back and enjoy that pool, just like any other child." Alicia nodded, a grateful smile spreading across her face. "And I can't thank you enough, Anna," she said, her voice thick with emotion. "You've been such a rock for us, and I don't know what we would have done without you and the rest of the community." Anna reached out and placed a reassuring hand on Alicia's shoulder, her gaze filled with a mother's tenderness. "That's what friends are for, Alicia," she said. "We're all in this together, and we're not going to let anyone take away our children's right to be kids." As they watched Jaden and his friends splashing and laughing in the pool, Alicia couldn't help but feel a sense of awe and wonder. It was as if a weight had been lifted from her son's shoulders, and he was finally free to be the carefree, joyful child she had always known him to be. Marcus, the steadfast advocate who had spearheaded the group's efforts, approached the two women, his expression one of satisfaction and pride. "Well, I'd say that's a job well done," he said, his deep voice rumbling with a sense of accomplishment. "That pool management sure didn't put up much of a fight once we laid out the facts for them." Alicia nodded, her gratitude evident in her every word. "You were right, Marcus," she said. "We had to make sure we were armed with the right information and approach this the right way. And you and the rest of the community, you've all been such a blessing to us." Marcus chuckled, his gaze shifting to the children in the pool. "That's what we do, Alicia," he said. "We look out for each other, and we make sure that every child in this neighborhood has the chance to grow up feeling safe, respected, and free." Alicia felt a surge of pride and admiration wash over her. She knew that the fight for equality and justice was far from over, but in this moment, she felt a deep sense of hope and optimism. With a community like this by her side, she knew that she and Jaden could face any challenge, no matter how daunting. As the afternoon wore on, the sounds of laughter and splashing continued to fill the air, a testament to the power of collective action and the triumph of the human spirit. Jaden, his face alight with pure joy, was the embodiment of that triumph, his carefree presence a reminder that every child deserves the freedom to simply be a child, without the burden of discrimination and prejudice. Alicia watched her son, her heart swelling with a mix of pride and gratitude. She knew that the journey ahead would not be an easy one, but with the support of her community, she was more than ready to face whatever challenges lay in store. For now, though, she was content to simply bask in the joy and freedom that had been so hard-won, knowing that her son and all the other children in their neighborhood would have the chance to grow and thrive, unencumbered by the weight of injustice and oppression. As the sun began to dip behind the horizon, casting the neighborhood pool in a warm, golden glow, Jaden reluctantly pulled himself out of the water, his small body dripping with droplets that sparkled like diamonds in the fading light. The young boy's face was alight with a joyous smile, a stark contrast to the somber expression he had worn just a few days prior when he had been turned away from the very same pool. Now, surrounded by his friends and the community that had rallied to his defense, Jaden felt a deep sense of belonging and acceptance that he had never known before. Alicia, Jaden's mother, watched her son with a heart full of pride and gratitude. The journey they had taken to reach this moment had been fraught with challenges, but with the unwavering support of their neighbors, they had emerged victorious, their determination and resilience shining through like a beacon in the darkness. As Jaden approached his mother, his small hand reaching out to grasp hers, Alicia pulled him into a warm embrace, the emotion of the day finally spilling over in the form of tears of joy. "Mama, did you see me swimming?" Jaden asked, his voice filled with a childlike wonder. "I was the fastest one out there." Alicia chuckled, her own voice thick with emotion. "Yes, baby, I saw you," she said, her hand gently stroking her son's damp hair. "You were amazing, and I'm so proud of you." Jaden beamed, his eyes shining with a newfound confidence and self-assurance. It was a far cry from the dejected expression he had worn just a few days earlier, and Alicia couldn't help but feel a deep sense of gratitude towards the community that had rallied to their cause. As the group of neighbors began to gather their belongings and prepare to head home, Alicia approached Anna, the kind-hearted woman who had been a steadfast ally throughout the ordeal. "Anna, I don't know how to thank you," Alicia said, her voice filled with sincerity. "You've been there for us every step of the way, and I don't know what we would have done without you." Anna smiled warmly, her hand reaching out to gently squeeze Alicia's arm. "Alicia, you don't need to thank me," she said, her voice soft and reassuring. "We're all in this together, and we're not going to let anyone take away our children's right to be kids, no matter what." Alicia nodded, her own expression filled with a renewed sense of purpose and determination. "You're right, Hannah," she said. "And I promise you, this is just the beginning. We're going to keep fighting, not just for Jaden, but for all the children in this community who deserve to grow up feeling safe, respected, and free." Anna's eyes shone with a glimmer of pride, and she pulled Alicia into a warm embrace, the two women sharing a moment of solidarity and understanding that transcended the boundaries of their individual experiences. As the group dispersed, Jaden approached Alicia, his small hand reaching out to grasp hers. "Mama, can we come back tomorrow?" he asked, his voice filled with a childlike enthusiasm. Alicia smiled, her heart swelling with a deep sense of love and pride. "Of course, baby," she said. "We can come back as many times as you want. This is your pool, and you have just as much right to be here as anyone else." Jaden's face lit up with a bright smile, and he pulled his mother into a tight hug, his small body trembling with a mix of joy and relief. Alicia held him close, her own heart overflowing with a sense of gratitude and hope, knowing that the journey they had undertaken had not been in vain. The incident at the pool had been a stark reminder of the enduring legacy of racism and discrimination, but it had also served as a catalyst for change, bringing together a community united in its determination to create a world where every child, regardless of the color of their skin, could thrive and flourish without fear or prejudice. As Alicia and Jaden walked home, hand in hand, the young boys' laughter and chatter filled the evening air, a testament to the power of collective action and the triumph of the human spirit. In that moment, Alicia knew that the future was bright, and that the fight for justice and equality would continue, not just for her son, but for all the children who deserved the chance to simply be kids, without the burden of discrimination and oppression.